The old man at the edge of the village market was not someone people usually noticed. Bent with age and quiet in nature, he sat by a wooden cart every morning, selling only one thing: a small, wrinkled fruit no larger than a plum, deep red in color and oddly aromatic. Most villagers passed it by without a glance. Those who did notice would scoff. Who would waste their coins on something so unimpressive? But word had quietly begun to spread. It started with Rajan, a retired schoolteacher. At 73, Rajan was a familiar sight at the village clinic. He'd been struggling with prostate issues for over a decade. Night after night, he woke up to relieve himself. The discomfort, the urgency, the frustration, these had become a regular part of his life. Medications helped only a little, and side effects made them unbearable. Then one morning, he appeared at the market, looking thinner but brighter somehow. He approached the old man's cart. "You still sell the same fruit?" Rajan asked. The old man nodded. "The name is Gulo," he said, "and yes, I do." Rajan bought a handful. He ate one every morning and night, chewing it slowly, grimacing at the tartness. Within a week, something changed. The urgency faded. His nights became restful. For the first time in years, he slept through the night. At first, he thought it was coincidence. But as weeks passed, the improvements held. He told his brother, who told his friend, who told his cousin. Slowly, quietly, the fruit began to earn a reputation. They called it the men's fruit. It wasn't sold in shops. It had no label, no medical stamp of approval, no scientific documentation. But it worked. Not for everyone, but for most who tried it. Stories emerged. A middle-aged farmer in the next town claimed he canceled his surgery after eating the fruit for a month. An elderly priest who once preached with one eye on the clock, rushing to the restroom between sermons, now stood calmly for hours. Some men claimed their energy returned, their clarity, their drive. The government sent researchers. They visited the village, asking questions, sampling the fruit, taking notes. They found that the fruit, scientifically unknown to even the botanists in the capital, grew only in one narrow stretch of highland, near an ancient riverbed. Its roots went deep, feeding on mineral-rich soils, untouched by commercial agriculture. Its skin held compounds not yet listed in their databases. Inside the fruit was a blend of antioxidants and phytosterols that, in lab conditions, showed startling effects on inflamed prostate tissue. But that wasn't all. What puzzled researchers most was that the fruit's effectiveness seemed to peak only when chewed raw. Once dried, cooked, or processed, its potency faded. They theorized that the enzymes responsible were extremely unstable, surviving only fresh consumption. And since the fruit could not be grown outside its narrow habitat, it withered when planted elsewhere, mass cultivation was impossible. Pharmaceutical companies tried. They offered the old man money. He refused. They sent agents in suits to negotiate with the village elders. The villagers declined. "Some things," said Rajan, "are not for factories." And so, the fruit remained local, spreading only through word of mouth. But not everyone was happy. A doctor in the nearby city hospital began losing patients who opted for the fruit instead of his prescriptions. He tried to discredit it, calling it superstition. A journalist wrote an article calling it nature's lie. But every attempt to tarnish the fruit's reputation backfired. Those who had eaten it stood firm, telling their stories, one after another. Then came Viraj. He was not from the village. A high-ranking official from the capital, Viraj had spent the last 5 years battling an aggressive prostate condition. Treatments failed. His doctors suggested surgery. Desperate, he heard whispers about the fruit. He arrived in the village unannounced, wearing a plain shirt and jeans, trying not to attract attention. The old man gave him the fruit, but not before asking, "Are you ready to believe what no one tells you?" Viraj nodded. He stayed for 3 weeks, living in a modest guest house, eating the fruit each day. By the end of the 3rd week, he called his doctor for a scan. What they saw shocked them both. Swelling had reduced. Urinary flow had normalized. Pain had vanished. Viraj returned to the capital with a new mission. But unlike the corporations before him, he didn't try to mass-produce the fruit. Instead, he funded a foundation that protected the fruit's growing region, ensuring no mining or development disturbed the land. He published reports, not about turning the fruit into pills, but about its natural habitat, its story, its sacred use. He called it Gulo, the forgotten remedy. Eventually, international journals picked up the story. Researchers from around the world visited the village, not to exploit, but to understand. What they found was more than a cure, it was a reminder. That nature, untouched and ancient, often held answers to questions we'd long given up on. Back in the village, the old man passed away quietly, surrounded by the trees where the fruit grew. The villagers buried him with honor. On his grave, they placed a single gulo fruit. And today, if you walk through that village market, you'll still find a small cart with a modest sign. For those who listen to what no one tells. Behind it stands a young woman, the old man's granddaughter, selling the same wrinkled fruit. She doesn't make promises. She doesn't claim miracles. She simply smiles when someone asks, "Does this really work?" And if you listen closely, she might answer the same way her grandfather did. It's not about what it cures. It's about what it remembers.